And we're live with Olivia's sneezing, kicking off our pub today. How are you doing, Adam?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back. We haven't done a pub for, well, I haven't done a pub for a couple of months or a few months now, but definitely not since the start of the year for any of us.
Yeah, we've ended up doing a dry January, just out of how busy we've been. But yeah,
Yeah.
lots to cover today.
Yeah, well, lots very on theme as well from the obviously the pub vibe. So maybe that's how we'll kind of spin this when we post it online. But yeah, lots of stuff to talk about today, isn't there? So should we kick it right off? Because I think the list of stuff that you sent over to me is in the double digits today, isn't it? So we all want to crack through.
Yeah, so I think there's been like 210 update or 211 updates since the beginning of the year. So yeah, I've just picked out a few of my own personal favorites, but yeah, there's plenty there.
I think. Yeah, look, let's see how we get on. We're trying not to get distracted as we click through these many pages. But starting with the first one, then, so data agent's been expanded onto contacts. So this is particularly useful, isn't it? Like about finding some context about what that contact's been up to, if they've been in the news, if they're all that type of good stuff. This was only available on companies before, right?
Yeah, so yeah, I think this is exciting and some people may say scary, but yeah, the data agent can now, yeah, like you say, expand its research out onto the contact rather than just the company. So it should be able to help the salespeople kind of tailor their outreach based off of the research it brings back on the contact.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't say where it's grabbing data from, right? It's saying understand a contact's career progression. That's kind of hinting towards LinkedIn, isn't it? Like going and searching around LinkedIn, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know it could get into LinkedIn. But if you have a public profile, I guess it can. I guess it can view the pages, right? But
Yeah, I guess it just says it can browse the web to research. So
yeah,
maybe if you're in the news a lot, there'll be a lot more information on you.
yeah, absolutely. HubSpot credits are required to use this one, so that's going to eat up credits, like any of the other smart properties. So just a heads up there. So Adam, walk me through this conditional scoring then. So it's available on health scores and lead scoring. What's the bag here?
Yeah, so just adds another layer of the scoring by being able to add the and in. So previously you could basically score against different properties, but it was always an or. It was like if it was this or this or this. Whereas now you can add an and. So don't score one property unless the other one is also equal to something else. So it just allows you to really tighten up on the lead scoring criteria. So I thought that was a good update.
Yeah, that's really good, and similar against the health scoring as well, isn't it? So lead and health being one in the sales workspace and the sales functionality, and one in the service space and the customer success workspace. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. I know we didn't have it on our list on this page, but this is so good. The customized confirmation email and meeting scheduling stuff is just so nice. I used it this morning actually when sending a couple of options to to a prospect, and having that confirmation email is just so good. So yeah, just sort of nudge onto that one. So all right, what have we got next? We've got set default property values, haven't we? So what number update is this, like 190 or something like that? But it's on one of these pages.
Yeah, you'll have to dig it out. But yeah, so like it says on the tin, you can now set properties to have a default value. And I was just trying to think of like a really good use case example of where you would want a property to always default to something. But I guess it's probably very dependent on the business. But I think to use this, if you're powering a property within a calculated property, it can be handy for something to be default if it's unknown. So like an assumption almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess because it's interesting, isn't it? Because on I was going to suggest like maybe having a default property behind the scenes, like on a form, but you would just have it. You can pre-select on a form anyway, right? So if you're pre-selecting that type of stuff, so yeah, I guess it's it's saving a lot of hassle in workflows for sure. With people like you said, mainly around calculated properties. But yeah, I am keen to know that where you'd want a default everywhere, like if it's this, it must be that. But if your portal's maybe 80% B2B and you had like a company type and it was like or contact type B2B versus B2C, you could like default to B2B, and then if in doubt, then the salesperson could go, actually, no, this person's B2C or something along those lines. But it's a really interesting one. Certainly saves a lot of people's bacon on the calculated properties side, which I think is exciting. So yeah, happy days on that one. Really good update. We haven't opted into any of these on our demo portal, but yeah, we have on our main, and they're very nice. So should we talk about predicted email engagement? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I just thought this was a nice addition to what used to be called lists and now segments, is that you can now see how well the segment is going to hopefully do for your email. So based off of historic data, it's going to predict the engagement level.
Yeah, that's really nice, isn't it? I think like it's obviously looking at deeper into the contacts behind there, and then just saying, oh yeah, this person's opened, lots of emails, all that type of stuff, and yeah, really, really good to see. It's nice if you're like pulling together a campaign with an audience that you've not really used before, but it's like dragging contacts from loads of different lists maybe, and then kind of amalgamating up. Yeah, I really like that. And like you said, in segments, which are list segments, won't go into that whole drama, will we? But cool. Let's talk about managing permissions. So we always love a permission setup update, don't we? So this one is around line items.
Yeah, a good update for the admins that you can now kind of put restrictions in place on what people can edit and change within line items. There's been a few updates to line items. I don't know if I've put them in order on this list, but yeah, always good to be able to have more control over access. So
yeah, so it's just down on the property access, the same as any other kind of property in HubSpot, which is really really quite useful. Also, love it when they include a video in the product updates thing. So helpful. Available on enterprise only, by the looks of it. Yeah, across the board on enterprise. So yeah, very, very nice. And it just kind of applies the same as like any other property that you can limit down by permissions or etc. But it's just been expanded in. Interesting around like discounts, right? Make it so that discounts are only like available to certain people or that type of stuff. I imagine the pricing and stuff is also kind of tied into that same bag, right? But
yeah. And I mean, I don't think I've put it on the list, but like there was an update as well for line item approvals, so you can put like approvals in place for like discount and stuff. So
yeah, no, very, very nice. Switching over into the marketing / AI side of things right now, we've got an update to improving the brand voice for Breeze Assistant and AI blogs.
Yeah, so previously you could basically set your brand voice as like a default across everything. Whereas my understanding on this update is that you can now actually append your brand voice for specific areas. So you can have a slightly different brand voice for your blog versus your emails.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, so you have like, emails nice and professional, whereas blogs maybe a bit more tongue in cheek or all that type of jazz.
Indeed. Yeah, nice bit of like flexibility for the marketers.
Yeah, completely agree. Sounds really good. Happy days. So AEO, I've been using this update on our own portal, and I can say that this is an absolute mega update. It's in private beta right now, so we've already given some feedback. It's not perfect, but yeah, answer engine optimization. This is really, really nice. There's no screen grabs on here. I won't obviously share our portal just because we're tracking lots of other bits in there, and also kind of goes against HubSpot's kind of terms of service with us sharing too much detail of a private beta. But yeah, this is really exciting. So it kind of stems off HubSpot's acquisition last year that they did of, I can't remember the company's name, but they acquired a company in the AEO space, didn't they?
Yeah, I've seen Meave give a demo of this, and yeah, it's really cool, giving you an overview of kind of how your business ranks within AEO. So it's showing you what your kind of rate is against ChatGPT and Gemini to see how you're ranking within those kind of LLM search, I suppose, rather than like traditional search.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key one here with this AEO update is that I was expecting this to be kind of like worked on and announced at Inbound or the Spring Spotlight in more detail, but it's so interesting that they just kind of pushed ahead with it because they just know that it's really important to get ahead of the game on here. So having used it on our own portal, it kind of shows you how your brand is showing up in ChatGPT and Gemini. It does promise it's going to say Claude at some point as well, but it's not doing Claude just yet. I'd be interested in Perplexity and all that type of stuff too. But yeah, ChatGPT and Gemini are the main areas, aren't they? Because it's showing like the AI overviews on Google search and things like that as well, which kind of counts for the Gemini piece. Yeah, really awesome update. So you need Content Hub, I think, for this one. Yeah, Content Hub or Marketing Hub, actually. That's quite nice because it is technically in the content kind of part of HubSpot, but it's nice that they're not limiting it to just content, and Marketing Hub is getting included there. I mean, they should be the same hub, shouldn't they? Let's be honest. But anyway, we move on from that. So campaigns automatable, Adam. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, you can now kind of control and use campaigns within workflows. So I think this is one of those ones where you've wanted that functionality for so long, and then when it arrives, you're like, oh, what was it I needed it for? But I think to be able to like send alerts based on campaigns, or to be able to append campaigns while you're running something else within a workflow, if you're importing a list or amending, I don't know. It just opens up more possibilities.
Yeah, this is really nice. So automate based on campaign level data and react when contacts with influence. I think that's the main piece for me. Like, I don't care too much about setting campaign properties, really. I don't think many of our clients do, because they kind of do it in the setup of the campaign itself. But I think the event trigger here, when a contact is influenced by a campaign, is really, really good. There's so much you could do with that. You could add a property to the contact, that keeps track of all the campaigns that have been influenced. That's been really hard in the past to keep track of that type of stuff. Like, when did people get influenced? What was the date and timestamp? You could achieve that with this. So if you manage to have, if you've got Ops Hub, or you maintain like a today's date property, you could easily you say in a multi-text property, with a date, which campaign, date, which campaign, date, which campaign, and build up a picture of like their campaign influence over time. Which is quite, which I think is quite interesting. So yeah, that's a really quite a mega kind of contact trigger there. Cool. Next one. This is one for the nerds out there, right? This is excluding weekends. This is really, really strong.
Yeah, and this was a timely one, because only a few weeks ago I've had to make a workaround using custom code and stuff to get this property to work. But it's now it's now available that you can exclude weekends from time between and calculated properties.
Yeah, this is super nice. And I think, isn't there something as well around excluding weekends from workflows, or was that late last year or something like that? You can in the delays functionality.
Yeah, I think it says like business days or something like that. But yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, this just basically is going to say, if a support ticket's like been created on a Friday, and then get picked up on a Monday, it's not going to include those 48 hours over the weekend, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, nice. You've got here on your list, Adam, email property. What are we talking about with an email property? What do we mean?
Yeah, so it's a new type of property. I just thought it was an interesting one. So you can now have email properties. So rather than having multiple emails within the same email property, you can now have
like a single line text field. It's like a dedicated field type of thing.
Yeah, and I just thought it was an interesting one, just in terms of, I was just trying to think, if you were like, some clients where they might sell to an individual on a corporate level, but also on a personal level. It could be handy to differentiate those emails across like a business email and a personal email property, which I then assume you can then use when you're kind of sending an email. You can dictate which email property you send to.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Otherwise,
Yeah, it says it will validate for you, which is interesting, which is good. So it will say this is definitely an email address or that type of thing. Does it say that though? I'd love to explore more on that, right? Because if it is only going to send, it'd be great if there's a switch, or like you said, like if someone's included in a list or included in an email, like what email property are we using today, chaps? Like we should be using personal or or work, right?
Yeah, I just assumed that would be part, because otherwise it's like I'm not too sure on the use case for it.
Yeah, because you could just add like a regex or regex validation in like a standard single line text property to say must include an at symbol. So that does it. Yeah, I'm with you. Interesting about the domains you can block and stuff like that as well. Good stuff. Yeah, maybe one to explore a bit further and see if we can use it, and then maybe revisit that in a few weeks after we've given it some thought and given it some use. Sounds good. Multiple teams. Now this has been labeled as a major update, right?
Yeah, and again, just one I put in there because I thought it was quite interesting, because obviously, like as a partner admin, still being assigned teams to see different views, etc., can be frustrating when you're then working with another team, but your views on a different team and it's not showing the same. So this is seemingly saying that you can now be a default member of multiple teams, which like makes me wonder what that view would then look like. I assume it will just show everything.
Yeah, you'd assume so. Yeah, because does it take priority, or is it just like you said, is it layer on top of one another?
Yeah, I believe it just layers on top of one another, because it's now replaced the main and extra teams, I believe. So you've got your default team and then like other teams, I think. So a single team, yeah, that determines record customization views. So
yeah, well, that's exactly. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? So that controls it, and I think it's nice that you'll be able to be part of multiple teams. And it's interesting about rotation and stuff like that, and how it's going to affect like work, routing and that as well. Cool, nice. I like that. Let's have a look. So what else have we got? Add line items to deals via workflow actions, because I've been using custom code for that. Is that now a thing? That's really, it's always annoying, isn't it? You always do a workaround and then it comes out of nowhere. This is another private beta. Okay, very nice.
yeah, I feel like this one has been we've been waiting a long time to be able to do this. So yeah, it's great that you can now add line items via a workflow. Just opens up a lot more possibilities.
Yeah, this is
for
amazing.
renewals and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is really, really cool. Yeah, you can add the quantity and all that type of stuff. So you can't add like the discount on the price and all that type of stuff. As far as I'm aware, I'm not trying to be negative on it. I'm just like, wow, what else can I have?
Yeah. I think obviously just as the first update, I suppose it's initially just like quantity of the line items, but
Yeah.
you can clone the line items, can't you? You can clone a deal and copy across the line items. So you'd like to see that functionality come across into here as well to be able to use more properties if that is the case.
Yeah, well, I don't see why you'd only stop it at a quantity. Like, why would you stop there? Like, where's the rest? Like, just add them in. It's like I know it's only in private beta, right? But it feels a bit half baked. Well, of course it is. It's private beta. But what I'm trying to say is, when you're doing this in like custom code, which we've done loads and loads of times, you just include the other properties by default because you might as well. Like, so
yeah.
Hope to see that anyway. That's
keep an eye on.
Yeah, one to keep an eye on, but that sounds obviously super positive that we've seen that. So the next one is also a major update, just in terms of like making sure that meetings are in HubSpot. So this one here, recurring meetings never used to be added to HubSpot. So you'd only ever see the first one. So if you had a recurring client meeting every Friday, it only ever showed the first one and nothing else would be in there. However, this update allows you to actually bring in those recurring meetings. They're going to always show up in that upcoming meetings piece, which is just awesome.
Yeah, and I also hope that this thing will include like the ability to prep for the meetings, because when you're in a sales workspace, if you're prepping for a meeting, if it's like a one-off meeting, you can obviously go in and see the history, but that's actually restricted on some recurring meetings. So I'm assuming that is part of this update to be able to actually prep for each individual recurring meeting.
Yeah. It says here there is a thing you can't actually schedule the recurring meetings from within HubSpot, but it's going to show up like this in the activity feed. But I really hope, like you said, that it's also going to be you'll be able to see it on the schedule tab in the customer success space or the sales workspace. So if that's the case, you should be able to do the prep bit, right?
Yeah, I imagine that's like a major part of this, because that was a bit of a miss on there before. But this is always a small but impactful update.
And then again, it says here they've been quite clever here, and they're only going to show the next 5 upcoming events in that series. So it's not going to show you, like, if you had it ongoing forever, it's not going to create like because technically you can set a recurring meeting to be like every week until you say stop, right?
Yeah.
So no wonder they set a limit on it, because that activity feed would have gone a bit mad. So yeah, cool, good stuff. That's a really really nice update. I like that one. Next one is meeting note taker with smart deal progression, and on this one, this is essentially saving you a shed load of time doing your admin and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought this one was really cool. This should be popular with salespeople. Anything that saves kind of what's deemed as admin. So this is going to pick out from your meeting recording recommended property updates. So, for example, if the amount has changed within what you've been discussing on the meeting, or the recording believes, oh, this sounds like further progressed in terms of the deal stage, it's actually going to recommend what those properties should be. And then, like you can see on that screenshot there, you just like tick across whether you want to take that change, or you can edit it from within there, I believe.
Yeah, this is super nice, isn't it? Like, it's just so good, like especially with deal description, because that's just going to change over time. I think with any of these, you might want to like sync these to a different property potentially, or try and get them into another property, just in case, like, but I love this, like just the ability to say yes or no is so good.
Yeah.
And then let's have a quick scroll down here, see if there's any kind of caveats we should know about. Follow-up emails ready to review. Incredible. Yeah, date. This is where it appears on the record. Yeah, it looks super.
So I think if you just scroll up, you should get an email after the meeting that will then basically say, keep going.
Yeah, nice.
That one there, yeah. So that will say like these are the actioned items and these are the suggested updates in the CRM, and then you go through to there to review it and then just tick them off.
Yeah, that's really, really nice. And then this is how admins can control it as well. You can actually change the properties that are suggested. So you could remove deal stage to make that only done by a human.
Yeah, or add different ones in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that sounds really, really nice. Happy days. And yeah, are going to be available on Sales Hub Enterprise and Service Hub Enterprise and Pro, and above. Yeah, really, really nice. Cool. Looking at our next one then, Adam, because we are nearly at the top of our very, very long list. So we have got next one up here, and I saw a video by Chris from BabelQuest on this one this morning, actually, as we record this, about enhanced frozen columns. So this one is particularly nice.
Yeah. Again, just a good update for usability, right? To be able to freeze as many columns as you need. Obviously, don't do too many or else it kind of defeats the object. But yeah, to be able to add multiple, just drag and drop them into that kind of frozen section on the left is just a much better user experience.
Yeah, so you kind of like freeze, just select freeze, and then you just drag the columns in. That's so much better than like selecting like freeze in a tick box and all that type of stuff. It's just like nice, very user friendly. Just drag that column in there, and it'll freeze in that frozen section, which I think is a much better way of looking at it rather than a just individual frozen columns. Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, super duper update. Cool. This one here, transferring calls across workspaces and transferring outbound calls. So lots of happening in the calling thing at the moment, because you can also now, like in the Chrome extension, you can now have calling embedded in the Chrome extension. So you don't have to have another window open, which is really nice. So let's have a look at calling. So this one here, transfer calls across workspaces. So yeah, nice little transfer button up there, but it actually allows it to go from workspace to workspace. I think is the big update, because you could transfer before, right?
Yeah, I just thought, again, this was just an interesting one in terms of showing that HubSpot's starting to become more of a serious player in the call space. Obviously, still a long way to go in terms of being able to, kind of route calls before they come into the system and hold music and all that jazz. But yeah, I thought this was a good update that you can now transfer across the workspace.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So this one like drops the call directly into the workspace, and then what happens is it calls all of those available reps until one of them picks up, right? So you can't transfer, when you transfer to a workspace, it doesn't transfer to an individual, it transfers to the entire team, and then from there someone can pick up. Yeah. And it also says you can transfer outbound calls. So if you've made a call and then they speak to someone else whilst you're there, Brill, transfer them over to a colleague. Yeah, love that. Brill. I jumped one. I didn't mean to do that. Oopsie. Next one, last one, actually, on customer agent, Adam. We're talking about custom instructions for customer agent.
Yeah, I think obviously customer agent is leading the way with all the agents. And again, this is a huge update for that, in terms of that you can now add your own guidelines and prompts in terms of how you want it to behave. And there's also a very nice little optimized feature as well. So you can kind of put in what you want and then optimize it to really enhance the output. So yeah, I thought this was quite a mega update.
Yeah, that's really good, because like you said before, like the tone was just like professional or witty or whatever. So, you use something like Gemini or Claude to, digest the tone that you want it to do, plonk it in here, press optimize again, and you're in for, it's going to be sounding great, isn't it? So I think the key bit here is just to, maybe either train it or gather some kind of insights from your other calls that you have, the successful customer service calls that you might be having, for example. Get them to analyze the tone, get them to analyze your blog post, that type of stuff, maybe your website content, and then customer agent can just like have your brand tone across the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's, like you say, it's quite easy to gather that data to be able to work out what your brand tone is without having to write it yourself and such. So like downloading successful calls, like you say, or syncing Claude to your emails, and then it put in your brand voice based off of the kind of emails you send. Yeah, it's quite easy to pull that data and then, like you say, put it in here, optimize it, and it should be on for a winner.
Yeah, and then the next one is obviously test live. drop that a test before you actually deploy it as well, right? You don't want to have a mistake and it starts going off. I posted on LinkedIn the other day that Claude was swearing at me for no reason. So yeah, hopefully customer agent has enough guidelines to stop it from doing that. But I was getting swore at by my Claude AI the other day. So yeah, anyway, really important to put your tone of voice in there is more my point. And like Adam said, like there's so many places you can find that now. And I like this gentle, nature-focused cues. Very nice, very light, very light and fluffy. But look, we can move on from that. Sounds really good. So look, how many updates, Adam? You said 211 over the last, however long it's been.
Yeah, since January, 211. So yeah, just a few to pick out there, but plenty of stuff going on as always.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, well, good stuff. We'll try and get this done we'll try and commit to the pub every week still, because I don't think we can keep up otherwise, can we? And it's going to be a long video like this one. But yeah, good to chat with you as always. And thanks again.
Indeed, yeah. Shout out to anyone that made it to the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is there a special word we get them to say or comment? I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure people will say. Cool. Nice one. Thanks, Adam. See you later.
All right, cheers, Matt. Bye.
Bye.